Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new, fancy, fun episode of Back to Basics, the podcast series where we rip the Bible apart absolutely to shreds in the most irreverent way possible and are still somehow okay while we do it. I haven't had a single lightning bolt yet today, so I think I'm doing all right. I continue to be Pastor Don, who is, despite all insistence to the contrary, an actual pastor. And with me is Courtney Fraley, the number one, the best, the most awesome Courtney that we all know.
I might be among the better Courtneys.
Top 10% at least. You know what? I'll even go further. You are the 1%. There you go. So today we've got a couple of different things we're going to be doing. First off, we're going to be appreciating the fact that at long last I finally have a proper microphone. It has taken me years to rebuild my audio setup after having moved countries, but I finally have it. So if you're listening to me, congratulations to you if I sound good. If I don't,
let me sound fantastic.
Because, hey, that's what those are for. So today, we've really got kind of two things we're going to do. Last week, we finished up with the whole stabbity, Isaac. Oh, wait, no, don't do that. So we finished up that whole bit. And now we're going to be moving on to the death of Sarah, because narratively speaking, when you try to kill your son and then don't, it's the wife who dies next, I guess. That makes, I don't know.
Here lies Sarah. She got a raw deal.
Yeah, she really didn't get a whole lot of good out of this story, other than this brief interlude where she decided to be just a raging bitch. Anyway,
oh yeah.
Yeah, there was that little bit where she kind of just vented on Hagar for a little bit.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch.
There's a reason why we have these all organized in a playlist. You might want to check out the other one.
All of the Bible up till now, which is why we're still in Genesis.
Yeah, we do get a bit self-referential from time to time. So anyway, I'm going to quick read you this last little snippet at the bottom of chapter 22. And I'll open the floor for questions on that one, but I don't imagine there's going to be any. It's like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 verses.
It's very brief and very record keeping. Like, it's understandable why this, we understand why this is there.
For completion's sake, I'm still going to read it, and we're going to have a second to talk about it. But that isn't even enough to get a full episode. We're going to get a minute out of that.
No. Yeah, go ahead.
So after the whole stabbity, oh my Lord, oh no, you're fine. We get to the children of Nahor, which is Genesis chapter 22, verses 20 through 24. Let me go ahead and quick read that for you. Starting from chapter 20, or from verse 20. Now after these things, it was told Abraham, Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nahor. Uz, the firstborn, Buz, his brother, Kemuel, the father of Aram, Chesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. Moreover, his concubine, whose name was Dehumah, bore Teba, Gaham, Tahash, and Maacah. Or should that be Maacah? Yeah, Maacah. Okay. Yeah, my Hebrew pronunciation is a bit rusty, but I think I got the most of it.
Feel free to tell him how much you butchered that in the comments. I have no idea.
Oh, yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think I did great by white guy Christian pastor standards, but I'm sure all of our Jewish listeners are sitting there in the audience watching this on YouTube, thinking, "Oh, you thought Isaac was going to get it, buddy? I'm gonna get you next," because I probably deserve it.
If we really do have like multiple Jewish listeners, like thank you, and also I'm sorry.
A little bit of both.
We're trying, but we're dumb. We don't. Yeah, this absolutely. Is not.
But if we do have Jewish listeners, chime in on this. Like, get into the conversation. Your
yes,
on this
please.
Will probably be very informative. Anywho, the only real takeaway that I get out of this is the fact that this links Rebekah back to Abraham's family, and Rebekah will be important in a little while. Not today, certainly. Not today, Rebekah. Or Satan. Did I just compare Rebekah to Satan? Probably shouldn't have did that. But in chapter 24, which will be the next episode, she's gonna come back in a big way. Because marrying your cousins is just the trendy thing to do. Anyway. Excuse me, I got a big cough today. Today, however, First, was there anything in that you found of note, by the way, other than just genealogy? Here's where Rebecca comes from, more genealogy. Bye.
Just like, I mean, you're talking to a Tolkien nerd. I understand the need for, genealogies in a universe you understand anything about from a narrative standpoint, and that's not why it's here, if I'm not mistaken. It's a matter of this is like a record keeping also for the Jewish people.
Yeah, that's part of it. And its primary purpose is to establish genealogical links. But in this case, the genealogical link it's establishing is between Rebecca and Abraham's family. Like the rest of it are kind of like those names that go nowhere in Tolkien, like the list of like all the other Maya that you never see. For example, like, yeah, good to know, but like, when did they ever come to Middle Earth, right?
Props. I didn't know you knew your Silmarillion.
I know some. I ain't no Stephen Colbert, but I did my time.
I could almost keep up with Stephen Colbert. Don't tempt me. Almost. He's terrifying. Anyway, back to the Bible, the holy book we are talking about.
Yeah,
that is
the holy book that we're talking about, not the other holy book that I totally don't have copies of sitting on my desk.
I need to dig up an old meme, but anyway, continue.
Anyway, we are actually moving on then to, if you got nothing else, we'll move on to 23, which is a nice short chapter, a whole total of 20 verses. We're going to cover the whole thing today, and that covers the death of Sarah and more of the circumstances of her burial. As usual, she's not an agent in this story, and it's really just a prop, because it wouldn't be a story about the lineage of Abraham if we didn't treat Sarah as a prop for people saying how awesome Abraham is. We'll get to it. Which, fun fact, next
this episode's going to make me mad, isn't it?
Not as mad as previous episodes, because at this point she's dead. What else are we going to do to her? But narratively, it is a bit of a thing. So you want to, since you're going to be getting mad anyway, you want to go ahead and take the reading for us today?
Not particularly. No, seriously, would you mind reading?
Fine. Make me like pretend like I'm a pastor or something. Okay.
God, make my pastor read the Bible. Freaking terrible.
No, man, like I haven't done it enough. Okay, Sarah's death and burial. Let's go. Genesis chapter 23, starting from verse 1. Sarah's death and burial. Sarah lived 127 years. This was the length of Sarah's life. And Sarah died at Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went in to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Abraham rose up from beside his dead and said to the Hittites, I am a stranger and an alien residing among you. Give me property among you for a burying place, so that I might bury my dead out of sight. The Hittites answered Abraham, Hear us, my lord. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us will withhold from you any burial ground for burying your dead. Abraham rose and bowed to the Hittites, the people of the land. He said to them, If you are willing that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat for me Ephron, son of Zohar, so that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which sounds very Scottish but isn't, which he owns. It is at the end of his field. For the full price, let him give it to me in your presence as a possession for a burying place. Now Ephron was sitting among the Hittites, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the Hittites, of all who went in at the gate of his city. No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it. In the presence of my people, I give it to you. Bury your dead. Then Abraham bowed down before the people of the land. He said to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, If you only will listen to me, I will give the price of the field. Accept it from me so that I may bury my dead there. Ephron answered Abraham, My lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? Bury your dead. Abraham agreed with Ephron, and Abraham weighed out for Ephron the silver that he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver, according to the weights current among the merchants. So the field of Ephron and Machpelah, which was to the east of Mamre, the field with the cave that was in it, and all the trees that were in the field throughout its whole area, passed to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the Hittites, in the presence of all who went in at the gate of his city. After this, Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The field and the cave that is in it passed from the Hittites into Abraham's possession as a burying place. All right. So far, other than inexplicable Scottishness, it's not too horribly bad.
No, I'm angry on Sarah's behalf, because at the end of the day, that this seems like a nice exchange. And the political yes, but you, yes, but you, of it all, like, is understandable. But at the end of the day, what it adds up to is Sarah dies, and again, Abraham gets more shit.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to get mad at Abraham when reading the Old Testament, but I've got feminine rage.
Like, there is a lesson to be drawn from that. Abraham was a friggin' opportunist. Like,
well, and there you go. We shouldn't be putting any human being on some sort of a pedestal, like
right.
they're higher than the rest of us. We do that with people today.
Yeah.
Abraham was a guy. He was a human being.
Yeah. And where we are now is pretty much the end of Abraham's story. He'll pop up a little bit in the next kind of chapter or two, but we're drawing down to the end of Abraham's role in the Old Testament here. And I think, like, at this point, when we talk about Abraham's motivations, not to justify some of the pretty abhorrent stuff he's done so far, it is worthwhile, however, to go back and look at his origins. Like, when he left, I think it was Ur that he left, when he separated from his family, followed the God of Abraham into the land here, became a nomad, going after God. Like, he wasn't going in there at the beginning as like a wealthy merchant with a lot behind him. He was going as a scrapper. Like, he had broke with tradition, he broke with the house of his father, and gone off to do his own thing. So his mindset, like, we tend to, I'm not going to say anthropomorphize, but we do tend to place upon his shoulders this image of the wizened old patriarch who definitely always knew what he was doing. But like, his story starts out with him making a, like, practically objectively ridiculous decision and then trying to live his life by it. And okay, like, you can see that thread of his personality winding through the whole story. Like, he was a take what he can get kind of guy. And as a result of that, he kind of Elon Musked his way up to an empire. Well, minus the apartheid diamonds and or emeralds and what have you. But, no parallel is going to be exactly accurate. And if everyone was wondering, by the way, this is why we don't post these videos on Twitter. But, like,
I'm being quiet for the people who are on. I forget this is a podcast. For the people who are on podcasts, like, no, I'm very much here. I'm giving I'm letting my face say fuck Elon Musk, because fuck Elon Musk. Anyway,
she is still here.
Back to Bible study.
Those of you who have been watching this on the podcast channel, so to speak, may be familiar with times where I start kind of going off on my pastoral penchant for preaching. Sometimes I'm doing that just because I'm a guy who can't stop talking. Other times I'm doing that because her video's frozen and I'm vamping until she comes back. This was not one of those times. So like, I'm not saying Abraham was a good guy. I'm not saying that, like, his behavior is excusable, but I am saying that we can at least look back on it and say, well, it's understandable. Like, given his background, given where he started and what his end goals seem to have been. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it.
I would go to the extent that I feel like you and I have talked about this before. I don't know if it's been on camera or not, but like, the good or bad people versus good or bad actions division, like, I mean, it's like a political content warning. It's like in America, what people do with the founding fathers and stuff like that. They put them up on some kind of a pedestal. Like, they did this amazing thing of making the concept of America happen, which I still think is cool as hell.
In theory.
But they were far from perfect, and they did a lot of not cool shit.
Mhm.
And the whole, this is stolen land to begin with. I feel like when we acknowledge that people important to foundations of pieces of who we are,
Mhm.
were just people, and
Yeah.
it wasn't like, they did something meaningful, so they were good. No, you can't do that. And apparently I just wasn't really expecting the extent to which that was going to carry over for Abraham.
That's spoiler alert, this is going to probably hold true for most biblical figures.
I mean, I know David. I'm familiar.
Oh God, when we get to David and Solomon,
David,
wow. If people don't like us now, wait till we get to talking about these guys.
Yeah. So I was prepared for David and Solomon specifically. I are ones that I remember, like, in church as a kid being like, dang, that's, you can't, no.
Yeah, fun little
side
spoiler.
Huh?
Fun little side spoiler, kind of a lateral spoiler for those of you who are consuming all unfinished community brand products, I should say.
Ew, never say that phrase again. Disgusting.
For those of you listening, sometimes I just throw out phrases just to see how she's going to react, because it's kind of hilarious. Anyway, why have a
dystopian hell?
Yeah, why have a co-host if you're not going to do stuff like that? Anyway, for those of you who are doing kind of all the stuff we're doing, I recently did a Bible study on the genealogy in Matthew chapter 1, which is the genealogy of Jesus. And one of the things I highlighted was that the whole purpose of this genealogy was to call attention to the fact that Jesus comes from the line of David, notwithstanding the fact that David's line goes through to the Father and he was born from the Spirit, so maybe not of Joseph, genetics notwithstanding. So that whole genealogy, and we're breaking it apart, and when it gets to the point where actually David's mentioned in the genealogy, it specifically calls out David, the father of Solomon, via the wife of Uriah. Which, if you may recall, Uriah was the soldier who was married to Bathsheba that David was like, oh man, she's pretty hot, so I'm going to see that he be dead. He literally murdered the guy by proxy to take his wife.
Yeah.
That did not have to happen, and that shows up in the genealogy of Jesus. So there is a long-standing tradition of the writers of Scripture calling out biblical heroes on their shit. So this is a thing, and it's
definitely happened. You can't wipe this out. That's like, yeah,
exactly. Like when we talk about the humanity of Jesus, when we talk about the humanity that we ourselves are a part of, that includes sin. Sin is part of the journey. And it doesn't just mean sin for the regular guy, but not for the biblical hero. Nope, they were all screwed up. Every last one of them. And it doesn't make what they did wrong entirely. Like the fact that Abraham...
doesn't mean that everything they did was bad either.
Exactly. Yeah. The fact
because we get the flip side of that too. We get the flip side of that too, where it's like we have unprecedented access to everyone else in the world's fuck-ups now. And so and you're not going to hear me like, oh, cancel culture or whatever, but a little bit. Yeah. Cancel culture. Like it needs to happen a lot to a lot of the people that it happens to, but like without that's happening to you because of your actions.
Yeah. Without delving too far into the whole cancel culture conversation, I will say that we have become a society of binaries.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Where it's like, either you're totally good, pure, and blameless in the sight of the Lord. Either you're Fred Rogers or you're Al Franken, to use two left-wing examples there. Either you're perfect and unquestionable, or you've done a terrible thing and must be excised from the public image forever. Like there is a whole spectrum between those two positions. Notwithstanding the fact that Al Franken's apparently on the short list to take over the Daily Show somehow. I don't know how that worked out.
Al Franken didn't fuck up that bad, did he?
And I know, like, I use him as an example because he's one of the few like left-wing examples I know of. Like most of that tends to happen on the right. But my point is like we've built a society where either you are like the living embodiment of Saint Fred Rogers the First, or you've made some level of mistake, in which case, you know, you must be cast out, tarred, feathered, and obliterated.
Oh, John Edwards. There we go.
This is one I don't know of. Like, what was up with John Edwards?
John Edwards cheated on his wife while she was in the hospital with cancer. He was John Kerry's running mate. Remember?
Yeah, I remember that much.
Yeah, no.
Know that about
him.
Clearly,
that kind of thing gets out. It's like, bye, political career.
You know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get political in the middle of a Bible podcast, but is it just me, or do the scandals that take down people on the left be significantly less than the scandals that don't take down people on the right? Anyway, you know,
Priorities.
Yeah, priorities. But still, again, sin is a threat. The point I'm making is that sin is a thread that runs everywhere. Like, it gets to all of us. And
yeah, somebody once said, none of you are without sin. Somebody, I think a character in this book.
You know, to paraphrase a very wise man who once asked the question, are we so shallow and terrified that we must extinguish a man simply because he carries some small element of sin? Double points if you know who I'm paraphrasing. Jean-Luc Picard, of course. From his speech to Admiral Nora Sati in the episode The Drumhead. Yes, I'm that much.
Oh, the Drumhead. That's a hard watch.
Oh yeah, God. I just watched that with my 8-year-old the other day, because he's old enough to start doing Star Trek and learning from it, because he's very excited about it. That led to some conversations, you know, as it should, as this should, to redirect us away from Star Trek back to the text.
To get back to the point is like, Abraham was a man, and he made some fucked up decisions and had some fucked up priorities, and there's a lot of people like that. And he also built a nation of people following after God. That's a big deal. Like,
and let's talk about credit where credit is due. Like, that nation that Abraham built,
that's a big deal too, but that they both can coexist in the same person.
And we have to recognize too, Abraham did, for the period, a degree of nation building. But the hard work, it was done on the back of Sarah. And we can acknowledge the work that Abraham put in, and we can acknowledge the suffering that Sarah endured, and look at them in a way as co-equals in the nation building of this period, rather than Abraham, the great patriarchal father, and Sarah, the also was there.
Yeah.
And I think that's the pivot I think I would like. If I'm going to generally sum up the most of the Abraham story here, I think this would be the pivot I would like to take away from it, is that in the end, Abraham was a sinful man, as we all are, and he did some rather inexplicable, to the point of hilarity, screw-ups. See all previous episodes for the last couple of months. But his ultimate successes are not his. They're theirs. And she was not necessarily an active, or I should say, it was a willing participant in most of it. But she deserves the credit for it either way, because it was her suffering, her action, and ultimately even her death. She
deserves the acknowledgement.
Right.
I feel.
Yeah.
Credit is a hard thing to say when someone isn't given much agency in their life.
If it's credit for a positive thing, I'm willing to give it. Like, even if you did not do it by choice, I will credit the Black community with building the entire United States of America. They didn't do it by choice, but they did it.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, and I will credit Sarah with laying the groundwork for the entire Jewish, therefore Christian community, even though she didn't do it by choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Point taken.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Yeah.
So anything else we wanted to pick at with this one? I mean, it is pretty straightforward. A lot of that kind of traditional Middle Eastern. Oh, well, we're doing a lot of, let me pay for it. Yada, yada, yada. But other than that, not a lot much else here.
Yeah. No, you get the feeling that there's a very much, yes, like, handshakes and nods sort of political atmosphere between the leaders here. Like, oh yes, let's all keep each other quite happy, especially Moses, because he knows God. And or
Yeah,
Moses, what am I saying?
let's
Abraham.
Abraham. And I do get that attitude of let's keep Abraham happy because he's done with the one wife. If he gets another one and starts trying to sell it to us, like that could end badly for all of us.
I still love, I can't think of his name. Was
Abimelech.
it Abimelech who was like, why did you do this to me? I've done
What the
nothing
hell,
to you.
man?
I never would have done this if I'd have known. Here, take all of this and leave.
It's like ordering a case of Mountain Dew off of Amazon and someone delivers you like Diet Coke. You're like, if you'd have told me that's what you were going to give me, I wouldn't have bothered.
Yeah, I didn't. This is not.
This is not okay. No one should be drinking this stuff. Anywho, so nothing. If you got nothing else in here, why don't we go ahead and wind this episode to a close?
Yeah.
Which means it's your turn.
Oh yeah, like, share, and subscribe and all that crap.
Please. I even put a fun little subscribe graphic up on our YouTube channel around the time I'm recording this. By the time this is out, it'll been up there for a little bit. So clickety the button with the fingers and the mouse and the stuff, and make it happen, y'all. You know,
join us on Discord, check us, find us on Facebook, talk to us in the comments, tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Since Don wants to know if his mic sounds good, while you're at it, tell me what camera to get, because I think I need a better camera or better lighting or something.
I need to.
I look like I'm filming on a potato.
Looks like I might have gone down. I was just seeing how many subscribers we have right now. We have a whole 22 subscribers. I think we lost someone, which makes me sad, but that happens. We're small enough now as a channel that I'm like, I actually know the number of subscribers, and it changes so infrequently that I remember it. So please, if you're watching, subscribe, make that
like, share, and subscribe, please.
Yeah. If nothing,
we're having a lot of fun doing this, and this is at the very least me getting Bible study in with my pastor and one of my best friends. Like, cool, but if you are getting anything out of this, if you think it's funny, you think it's thought provoking, if you think,
or if you just want to yell at us,
yeah. If you think we're wrong about stuff and need to be spoken to about it, let's try being civil. Like,
let's try. That'd be a good experiment
conversations
for the internet.
Conversations. Find us on. Speaking of being civil, find us on Discord.
Oh yeah, we're having some knockdowns over there. Like, not in a bad way. Like, we're having some real good dig-ins to stuff. We're talking about
some quality conversations.
Yeah, we got one thread right now. We're talking about the theology of Oscar Romero right now, which is a good run. Like, I'm looking at even bringing back the Bible study thread again, because we've had trouble keeping a regular Bible study going. Although, on the subject of Bible studies, we are still doing a joint Bible study with the First Reformed Church of New Brunswick, which is, for those of you in Japan, that's every Thursday morning at 9:30. For those of you who are in the U.S. Eastern Time Zone, that's 7:30 p.m. on Wednesdays, at least until daylight savings times messes everything up again. So if you're game for a Bible study, please join us for that one. It'll be a lot of fun.
We've also got daily devotionals thread that tends to be
daily in quotes, because I've been so busy with Christmas stuff. I got the verse posted and conversation started, and then forgot to post the devotional yesterday.
Still an almost daily devotional.
Almost daily. Yeah, I think I may even change the thread to represent that, but we're trying. We are trying.
Please do. That would be hilarious. Almost daily devotionals.
Yeah, I'm a half.
We're people too. Just like,
yeah,
me better than Abraham.
More people than others, but
what now?
I said some of us are a little more people than others, but it's the holidays.
Yeah, so, and you got cute little gremlins that need to glom onto daddy.
Cute little gremlins that are inspiring me to make cookies by the 24 every 18 hours this season.
Why? We can talk about that later. Anyway, come to the Discord and ask him why.
Come to the Discord. Ask me
way after Christmas now.
I will even share you my recipe. If you're in Japan, I'll even give you some.
Yeah, there's a sharing channel.
Yeah,
It is for inside folks, unfortunately,
no,
primarily.
that's for everybody. If any of you in the US happen to live close enough to each other to share stuff.
We can put roles on for areas that we live in and stuff like that too.
Yeah, which
Um,
we're still building pieces of it. It happens. I just updated our US side roles. There's a lot going on. In any case, I'm going to leave this conversation here, and we are going to end the video, and we are going to see you. For you, it'll be another week. For us, it'll be a minute and a half. So we'll see you on the next episode. Have yourselves a great week. And if you don't have a great week, come join the Discord server. Tell us about it.
have a good week. You have
Yeah.
no choice. It is inevitable.
Yes, it will happen. Be prepared. Bye.
Bye. A drumhead reference. I wasn't expecting that.
I know.
That episode feels like a punch in the nose. Just like I was watching it during the Bush administration too.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
was
that's the
like,
fun.